Thank you very much, Veli, and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to our third matchup of the day. Blue and Stokes bringing the action as usual. And Stokes, what exactly do we have for this matchup now? An interesting one, considering the recent results, but maybe that doesn't tell the whole story, as the analysts were just explaining.
I don't think that it tells the whole story either, John. I think these last two matches were something that TSM desperately needed, maybe some holes that they needed to close up, but I think the big story here for them is that Geometrics is back in the mix. You and I were also part of the Gamers Without Borders tournament over the weekend and got to see Geo play with TSM, and honestly, I have to agree with Jesse. That man absolutely popped off. I think this team is going to be very scary coming into this week, especially up against an XSET that's starting to come into their own.
Not only that, too, but for those who listened to the interview after that charity match with Pojo jumping on to give some insight into what exactly was going on with that situation, they had talked about it. They were very well aware of the situation that Geo was going through. Geo was watching the entire time inside of scrims, exactly what Pojo was doing. So now that he's back here, he's been able to just slot right back in. They run through the motions real quick. But like I said, since he's been watching all the scrims and whatnot, he's really not out of the mix, I think, as much as people would expect. So I really wouldn't put that as much of a factor into this matchup. Don't expect any weird stuff with Geo suddenly being synced back in and maybe thinking that the team isn't going to be up to snuff as a result of that. I do not think that that is going to play into today's matchup at all, meaning that XSET need to be ready to face off against a 100% ready TSM on Kafe, and that could end up being a very tough matchup looking at the match history specifically for TSM on that map.
Yes, and that could mean a pretty rocky road against XSET, or up ahead for XSET, especially with Jarvis now in the mix. We've been talking about on the analyst desk about how Drew Spark is in kind of a coaching position now, but kind of still an analyst, kind of halfway in between, just doing whatever the team really needs from him right now because of what has happened with Drip stepping down, Jarvis stepping up, and XSET finally securing some wins. This team again is coming together. I don't think that they're on top of the ball necessarily just yet in the likes of the NAL, but I definitely think this team has something bright in their future.
Yeah, definitely starting to throw some good works out more than anything else is something that we could say here for XSET. How far that will build is still very much the question. But speaking of questions, we do have our community poll for this matchup. Geometrics has not played a game yet this stage, but Filthy has finally started heating up. We want to know from you guys at home, which player will put on a show today? Will it be Filthy from XSET or Geo from TSM, Geometrics to be specific there? Go ahead and let us know over on our social channels, whether it's on our Twitter at R6esportsNA, here in the Twitch chat, or somewhere else as well.
I don't know how people get Geo and Geo confused. One's like 6'5" and blonde, and the other one is like this, like 5'10", like Mexican dude that plays Siege. I don't really get how you guys end up messing that up, but we do it somehow. But that's going to be a pretty difficult decision, honestly. Personally speaking, I'd probably have to go with Geo the player if it were me.
That seems to be a lot of the consensus here for this matchup, is definitely considering throwing their hat in with XSET, but not really willing to take that risk as of yet. And I think that that's a very good point to get ready to jump into this game on. XSET are making improvements. They are starting to develop themselves, but the reality of the situation is still very much true. This team is number 8 in the league right now. They're going up against TSM, who just got their primary 5th back, and at least as of a few days ago, was looking great playing with that 5th. Here we go, though, folks, into the first map on Kafe. Let's see who's going to come out on top and get those points on the league for today.
Should be a pretty exciting match, especially for you and I. You and I ended up actually seeing some action from TSM up against Gotcha's CL team Orgless this past weekend on Kafe. And it was actually a pretty interesting match overall, especially strategy-wise. So we'll see if that happens yet again here. XSET are going to be onto the ban phase now for their offensive and defensive ban. We've already had Thatcher removed, but most of you guys more than likely already know why Thatcher's being removed. He is indeed still our highest banned operator in Rainbow Six Siege, just like he's been for the last 2 years. XSET choose to take away Maverick, so want to limit the hard breach potential. Obviously, the rest of the hard breachers will still be available, though. This is just going to make things a little bit more difficult, granted that Thatcher is removed. Moving on to the defensive bans now, as XSET will get our first one in here. It'll be Wamai. I always love seeing this ban on Kafe personally. Get rid of those discs, make the burn just a touch easier inside of the utility department. It also makes it to where Pixel is a little easier to work with from that offensive side. Valkyrie, well, John, we all know why she's leaving as well. One of the best defensive operators in the game overall. Amazing spots for her cams on this map, as well as just overall an influence that you don't want the defense to have.
kind of throw the explanation away pretty often and just like sees the Thatcher for the defense pretty much. It's just too universally useful across the board.
She's just got a hot sale on info. That's what it is.
Way,
Everyone
way
else is like,
easy.
I kind of get info. Then Valkyrie's just like, listen, we're BOGOing here. This is what's happening.
Much like Thatcher, she kind of just like fits into any lineup for the most part as well. So that universality, a little bit too powerful in this specific map, so she'll be knocked out. We do have the castle picked initially here, which normally would be a pretty good choice, but interestingly enough, it's going to get switched over towards a bandit. A little bit extra wall denial coming in for TSM on the defense at the cost of those castle barricades, which we normally see used here to support either the main entry, things like the, you could set up like an alternate rotate for going into small bakery, a couple different ways you could play the castle barricades, but usually ends up being a good choice. Seems to not be the case this time, though, for TSM, as they want the wall denial instead.
Honestly, I'm trying to be more attentive to what TSM has done in the past with that 6 pick coming in for the castle. Again, you and I, over the weekend, getting to see a little bit of TSM's action on Kafe and what they have to provide us. And one of them was a castle set up on this upstairs area whenever they would end up defending reading room as well as library. So that might have been something for TSM, just expecting XSET to think that it's going to be a top floor hold instead, and just try to move those goalposts downstairs, get XSET to, think the incorrect thing early on, maybe make a misstep inside of their 6 pick or utility somewhere around the map. Either way, though, we are out and into round 1, away from the castle barricades and everything else. It's still going to be a roam setup here for TSM, but you more than likely already knew that. A lot of utility or info denial on board for TSM with Bolo at the helm.
With about 30 seconds gone in the round. Obviously, it's the first round of Kafe, so we're not expecting to have any barnstorming action immediately deploy out across the map here. XSET very much on an informational mission for the large majority of the opening minutes of this round. They are going to have to deal with aggression from TSM right from the 3rd floor as well. We've got the Munin position played by Merc currently, who's going to be fending off pressure from both Cigar as well as the hop down into the hatch itself. He's ready for this, but doesn't have the range to take down Creators. Creators eats the pump from the shotgun. Razor is well gets an entry going for XSET here, and that's a good start for the attack in the first minute of the round to bring it down to a 5v3. So far, no response from TSM. In fact, Geo nearly gives away another life for the defensive squad here and brings it down to a 2 versus 5. Thankfully, backs up with the appropriate timing, saves his own life, although just barely at sub 25, and falls back to the depths of the kitchen.
Unfortunate opening half here for TSM in round 1, but still doable. Some damage done to Creators and also some drones stolen away from XSET, but they're doing a very good job of clearing this together, and that's the biggest thing. Someone like Achieve can end up taking quite a few bodies if he ends up getting cleared incorrectly, but it's been done, and it looks like TSM want to try and deal with this through another avenue, and that avenue seems to be Geo. As he's slowly working his way up the staircase, he could end up catching a few XSET members off guard, but they've mostly cleared this middle floor. Don't have any of Filthy's air jabs down yet, though, so the staircase still have access for the defense as they begin to break up this floor. This is mostly going to be up to the soft destructive unit of Creators and Thomas, as they'll be breaking up that flooring. Geo finally popping off. He'll claim Jarvis, as some hard destruction goes the way of the defense.
Nitro on the floor. They're so close to having someone from TSM run directly over it, or from XSET, excuse me here. Creators as well. Definitely aware of the shenanigans currently going on for what I believe is still Geo at top white there. Gonna try to send him back even further by deploying the second stun grenade. It works out. Razor's actually coming up to assist with this. Seems like they might brute force their way past this to try and handle Geo quickly, but Geo's playing this smart right now. He's incredibly passive all the way in Cocktail. Look at all this time he's wasting away from the XSET attack right now. This is while the 2 anchors are having to do absolutely nothing as far as I'm aware of down in the basement itself, except get ready for the drop play. XSET is trying to play 2 strategies at once, and it is not working. Geo and Chala both find kills. That's Geo's 2nd kill at sub 25 HP. Achieve with another one. It was looking so good for XSET at the beginning of this round, but it's all fallen to pieces. TSM pull off the 3v5 and win out the first round.
Some hard-hitting analysis? Where are those air jabs? That's my hard-hitting analysis. Listen, I mean,
that's the thing. He didn't even move. He wasn't even moving forward. Geo, if we're talking about Geo, this is like he wasn't even moving down white stairs or into their territory. XSET kept pushing into him.
Yeah, it's just, well, the thing is, John, is that he shouldn't even have been capable of getting into the positioning off rip anyways. XSET takes complete control of the 2nd and 3rd floors. At that moment in time, Filthy should be putting down every air jab that he has, either on a staircase or what have have you. But at a minimum, my friend, red and white should be locked down. That should be the last thing that you have to think about with air jabs on the field. So for XSET, that's a huge botch, folks. I hate to break it to you, but you guys are going to have to fix that. You cannot take map control like that and just throw it to the wayside and hope that someone's not going to rotate, because otherwise you're going to have a, for some reason, very low HP geometrics rotating out of everyone to catch you off guard. That round goes the way of TSM off of just some very good adjustments inside of the mid round. They knew they had to throw something at the wall, and well, this time around it stuck.
Big tip up to the analysts there too. What they mentioned on the desk about how something that had been missing from TSM that's coming back with Geo is the playmaking capability, and we see a perfect example of that right there in round one with him taking the initiative all the way up through red stairs, retaking the third story control, and then splitting up the attack entirely for XSET and causing them to just bleed out their player count at the end of the round. Really great stuff from him. Definitely a definitive first round to put himself back on this team and, of course, keep them in the lead at 1-0. Let's see if they can keep that going here on the second floor defense. XSET just spawned out, so let's take a look at their opening moves.
And it was exactly what we were thinking about in the previous round here, John. That castle barricade coming in like we saw during the Gamers Without Borders tournament. It's this castle barricade set up up top inside of Freezer. They put a mute jammer here as well to deny access to the wall, as well as drones or anything trying to get immediately put onto that castle barricade. But really the story was frag grenades not being able to get rid of that castle barricade. They're bouncing off and just not having enough explosive damage to, or rolling under it and just getting the mute jammer instead. But we'll have to see how XSET, specifically Razor, and right now want to try and deal with this. A nice pickup on T'Challa, who's currently 1-1-1. That'll be his first death, but only secured in round 2.
Second round in a row, though, where we've seen success from Razor on the entry game, so things are working out well for XSET in that regard. They're finding the early peaks from TSM, and so far, as of the first 2 rounds, of course, they've been able to punish them. It's moving past that point, where things seem to get a little bit more difficult for our attacking team. About halfway through the round here, though, and XSET still taking a very slow approach. They have gotten some initial control, mainly because of TSM losing that player, T'Challa going down, and not wanting to lose any more. They're now taking a passive stance, so things like Cigar, as well as the initial white control, are going over to the attack for free now.
Difficult times here for XSET. They're doing a very good job of clearing out this top floor, though. Geo will go down, the only remainder being Merc, and Thomas will secure that as well. It's a double kill now for Thomas after that earlier frag that we saw from Razor. A 4v2 now for TSM after Achieve picks up Filthy on white with a Nitro cell. It'll only be achieved in Bolo. The remaining men inside of sight. Bolo switching to or an anchor position, but always aggressive player. But no, Thomas catches him on the off angle. Not worried about what could be happening to the right. He saw this ledge up top, but just did not have the shots. It's down to Achieve now, and he knows he has to get forward with what he's doing. He cannot sit here and wait for XSET to make the next move. He'll take down Thomas as he enters a 1 versus 3. It's 40 seconds remaining as he pressures into 90. Razor with a cross angle here, prone as well. More than likely a successful angle here, unless it's worked possibly. Oh, Achieved! He almost has it. The shots go wide on the G36C initially after the prone angle is brought up, but the other prone angle just a little bit stronger. Razor sees the head of Achieved, and XSET get their very first round.
Razor with the first and final kills of the round, but it's Thomas that's the highlight there. Also the highlight of the team in last week's matchup too, continuing to impress here today with that beautiful triple kill to open up so many possibilities, including the unfortunate one versus Bolo, where he just could not spot his opponent due to his gun model or something like that getting in the way. So not going to be able to catch that frag this time around. Thomas instead gets his 3rd kill on it and shreds his way through the competition in TSM. That's an immediate exchange at 1-1. TSM are not going to reattempt that same site. Instead, they're going to get very much in the face of what will more than likely be the initial execute from XSET here and go right to the 3rd floor and defend this.
This is very difficult for TSM right now to try and get these opening frags. Haven't been able to do it so far on their defenses, but luckily enough, only 1-1 right now for the defense. So hoping to put things back together on this bar hold, as it'll be quite similar to what they did on their reading hold. We'll see if they want to go with the same castle barricade setup, but either way, they will be adding some laser gates here with T'Challa, as well as some mirror windows for geometrics. So a little bit more utility attention incentive for this round to the top floor, especially trying to hold things down around Christmas. Good insight onto that position for TSM. Again, it's going to be decided inside of what happens inside of this first minute and a half. We've seen TSM fight back. It's not necessarily that I'm too worried about. It's just these early picks and snowballing attempts for XSET to continue to be able to grasp a hold of those.
From that initial setup, though, XSET once again starting to set up in the spots we would expect them to, on top of the red hatch and, of course, on the repels towards white, as well as leading into Cigar. It will continue to bleed down that initial minute or so while they continue to drone things out and see what exactly is going on with the setup, specifically towards that bathroom area, as they do need to try and vie for white control in order to get Cigar. Working past that Surya/Mira setup can sometimes be difficult for the attackers, so a lot of focus generally goes to that on the early round, which also means a lot of pressure going to be on Bolo to try and perform and at least pick up the 1-for-1 here, if not outright delay for another minute or two.
Bomb located by attackers.
This is a very scary position for XSET to try and push into, especially the bathroom area. Position that Bolo is known for playing. We usually see him here with a Goyo, but obviously with the bans that we've seen happen earlier, more than likely not as easy to work in, as I'll be dedicating Jaeger as well as a Rooney to this setup overall, and trying to pair that with some strong utility just to slow down XSET, and it's been doing a bang-up job of it so far. XSET just now working their way into the building, a minute and 30 seconds, and also a lot of health off of Jarvis as XSET simply sit on their hands trying to figure out this puzzle. They still have quite a few drones to be able to do so, but they'll mostly start focusing their efforts around white. Currently 2 people on repel, matched with XSET's players currently inside of Cigar, just trying to work their way around this bathroom position that we saw Bolo in prior, and this is the thing that we thought was going to be an issue for them going into the round. They haven't still found a solution to this. Still 2 ADSs lie in wait, as well as a laser gate, and this entire area is actually laser gated to high heaven. I mean, it's going to be difficult for them to work in even through Pixel. You can also see the Mira of Geo starting to work up White Hall. It looks like XSET might have to make an adjustment here, John. This might be a bar hop.
Not really going to be much of a choice here. It's been dead quiet the entire round, except for some pre-fire attempts from both sides. Achieved even going to start to line himself up downstairs now to counter out the inevitable push that's going to begin to work its way, and he's assuming there's going to be some action over on Defender's side balcony as well here, but more than likely will not end up being the case. We'll see how he adjusts after realizing that to play more into this play against the Execute, and it's going pretty much exactly as we expected. A little bit excessive, to be honest, there as well, as we see a team kill go out against one of the members of TSM. That's going to be Merc falling to that. But other than that, so far, it's a perfect defense. XSET just get nothing going for themselves, and TSM are going to shut it down exactly as we would expect them to. Razor alone, but what can he do here? Doesn't even have ammo in the primary. Chala's going to finally knock him out when he goes for the swing. That's going to be a nice, easy hold for TSM to get their second round on the board.
Out-strategized and then outgunned there at the very end. Very nice round there from TSM. XSET with not a single chance to try and get into the actual site. They make a split-second plant attempt inside of bar, but TSM had already eliminated so many XSET members, as well as had achieved downstairs inside of pillar. It just simply did not matter. Amazing round once again for them, and mostly up to what was going around that bathroom area, supported by the white hold there for TSM. XSET just simply trying to ram their head into the exact same brick wall and hope that it would break, but it did not. As well as just, trying to go for that plant in general. Yes, it is a last-ditch effort, but they still didn't worry about anyone being downstairs inside of the pillar area, and they had 5 people alive. So I don't necessarily know why you weren't worried about somebody being down low, as it's a 5 versus 5, and, well, you're playing against TSM, so that's probably something that you need to worry about.
Certainly the case. So TSM...
I know I'm being a little rough today, I know, but, like, come on, guys.
TSM complete the rotate through their initial 3 defensive site choices. They're going to start rounding those back now. It's first up to kitchen. More than likely, after this, we'll see a follow-up into library, and then after that, they'll finally have that upstairs site available for play. We'll be able to use that on the 6th round. Expect them to follow that pattern pretty much to the nose, unless something really weird happens here and forces a change-up or a retry on one of the sites along the way. Here comes XSET once again. We'll see what type of adjustments are made to the previous strategy employed on this attack. The big thing being that they just weren't able to properly utilize the air jabs back in round number 1. Sam had touched on this. They were over-aggressing past their own utility and those air jabs like we were talking about to try and take out the roam game, most notably that in Geo. And unfortunately, unfortunately, it cost them too much, split up their attack, and although things were looking good, they had a 5v3 at one point in that round. They were split up too much, and the remaining anchors on the site were able to piece them apart in the waning seconds of the round. 30 seconds gone from this round, though, and XSET's still taking up initial positions and working on the initial drone intel. In fact, we got 3 players on their drones right now, so XSET not really thinking about containing too much map control inside of these opening seconds.
You shouldn't have to worry about it all too much, as TSM are more on a lateral hold here. It's all across that bottom floor. No real roam setup this time around, and you can't necessarily blame them. They will have Bolo, though, on an extended hold here. Merc as well, actually, in the top floor. Didn't actually end up seeing those two earlier on, so a surprise for me as well as you guys at home as Merc gets taken down in the top floor. They actually are going to have the extended hold here. I just didn't see the hatch being opened inside of dining, so Bolo and Achieve actually still both going to be on this mid-level. Luckily enough, they'll be able to exchange some damage. Razor and Thomas, both on the receiving end, just have not actually gotten taken out just yet. But are TSM going to choose to hold on to this mid-floor? The answer, no. Everyone has escaped down the dining room hatch and instead is holding on this mid-level, the most forward positions being Bolo inside of VIP as well as Geo currently on Red Landing.
A similar start to the round here for TSM, but once again, let's remind you of the situation. Over half the round is gone. We're just now seeing XSET establish second floor positioning. They're still going to have to open up all these top-down angles into the actual site itself, which is going to take another 30 seconds or so at minimum. And as well, they'll need to get the hatch open, assuming they have the capability to do so, which they should, with Hibana being brought to the table. Now, all that's going to round itself over towards a hatch drop, which again, TSM still have counter agents for this on the first floor, notably in the positions they've taken up towards VIP and Whiskey. So XSET has a very long checklist of things they need to accomplish with only 40 seconds left on the clock. This is risky from Geo. He's running past all kinds of angles right now. Somehow makes it out of there, though, without any damage done to him. Bolo, as we check in on him towards VIP, just opening up rotate options. There's still a bit of a question mark as far as how XSET is going to execute exactly here. So TSM just trying to figure that out. And unfortunately, in the process of doing that, they lose another player. One of their anchors going to get blinded out entirely. Craters takes some heat as he drops into the hatch. Thomas is trying to find the player down below, but instead it's Chala that's going to be isolated out next. There's Jarvis continuing his own rampage. Achieved going down right after the other site player was eliminated. Bolo, the only one left here. A 1v5 set before him, and he doesn't stand a chance. XSET struggle in the round before, but bounce back brilliantly with a flawless round on the attack.
So much better there. So much better from XSET. They get done exactly what they had previously. They get the early pick onto Merc. Great drone game early to clear out those top floors, and a great catch by them because I didn't even catch that roam game, and I'm the one with the observer slot. So amazing stuff for XSET. That led into a pretty solid, half to late round there for them after they get everything set up on that mid floor, get the air jabs down for Filthy. That was a very important step. We saw what was happening over with Geo. He was looking for that rotate up red again, but he wasn't able to procure it. XSET continue to find the picks. Some damage dealt to them, but nobody dies. And when they're ready for the plant, they already have all of the angles set up to worry about all of the other doors. That was the biggest thing there. They know that they have to clear out site. They know more than likely Chala's inside of there. And not only do they have utility to support it, but also info. They know that he's the only remaining person inside of that area. They sweat him out, kill him, get the overwatch for the plant over the bomb chassis, and that's all she wrote. So fantastic round there for XSET, and we're now tied 2-2.
So XSET continues to hold on this attacking side of Kafe, rounding out rounds here and definitely correcting mistakes with relative quickness towards it. TSM has their work cut out for them on the inside of this matchup. We talk a lot about how Kafe, almost nearly a one map a lot of the time for TSM. The second it gets picked, it seems like it's not so much the case here today. With XSET making that immediate impact, we'll go all the way to a 3-3 though. That is still the question, and it's a very pertinent one considering we're going back to the only other site that XSET has been able to take control of from TSM so far. So let's see if they can do that and take the lead now on what would be their third round if they could repeat the victory here.
Okay, well, XSET out onto the field, as John was saying. We're already 30 seconds into round 5. No big change up inside of the utility department for either of these teams, except if you're talking about TSM, with Bolo and Ashi both bringing new pieces to the puzzle. Frost and Goyo both working their way in, and a little bit of awkwardness inside of bathroom, as John just pointed out, but luckily enough, no one getting injured in the process, so no one's going to have to call OSHA or have to go to the hospital just yet. XSET more than likely has some plans to send a few TSM TSM members to the hospital inside of at least this round. We'll have to see if they're able to procure that opening frag yet again here as XSET continue on their drones, trying to find out anything that they possibly can about this TSM setup, and they're actually going to get a whole lot. Filthy ends up taking down Merc, no one seemingly aware of a cocktail rappel.
Mark is having a rough game so far, man. It's not even necessarily his fault. There's been multiple rounds now where this dude has just been nuked right at the beginning of the round. They figure out where he's at, and then a few seconds later, just a massive amount of utility explodes in this guy's face before he even gets a warning of it. And then he goes down and do a headshot or a nade like 2 to 3 seconds later. So Merc just can't even get anything started here today. I don't blame him at all for the scoreline that's currently set before him. Creators going to be the first to fall from XSET this time, though, as Bolo works himself to top white. Knocks out the trade and brings us right back on to even terms at a 4v4.
Slow now for XSET. They still have to try and attempt to clear out this top floor. Well, TSM may have made it just a touch easier for them now, as we see Bolo has moved his way down to the mid-level here, as well as the rest of TSM, as we're now starting to get a little bit of the full picture here from Thomas's perspective. Yes, that entire top floor is now clear, so a minute remaining for XSET to attempt to break up this floor and try and find some extra picks. It's a 4v4 now. This round sits on a knife's edge. It's really anyone's as to what happens in the next 40 seconds. It's a Nitro Cell out for Achieved. He's going to go 0 for 2 now inside of this game on those ceiling Nitro Cells. Chal is still trying to hold things down on white, as TSM is not scared to try and hold these opposite areas, make sure that XSET cannot work down to their floor. That's why you're looking for those picks up top. Filthy currently worried about someone being inside of brown stairs, but what he should be worried about is mining, and he is. He's holding the cross here, waiting to see what can possibly be done. Bolo with some nice shots. He'll end up downing him, but the plant's going off for Jarvis right inside the reading door. Nitro Cell out will take him down. Geo prevents the plant, but no, he doesn't. It still goes down, but so does the rest of XSET. TSM win it 3 up instead, and now 3 rounds for them as well.
A near instant retake from TSM. I'd hesitate to even call it a plant for XSET, considering how short of a time that thing was on the ground before everybody actually died. XSET barely squeak off a plant for themselves. Unfortunately, they're unable to account for the off-site pressure, specifically from Bolo, as well as a couple other players, as well as some of that unused utility, which comes in clutch to shut down the play in the waning seconds of it. So TSM instead are going to take the lead as they now rebound on their mistakes from the last time that second floor was attempted and take control of it for a first time in this half. We'll see if the bar will yield results, as they're going to look for the 4-2 lead on that one as we head into the final round of the half between these two teams. XSET getting ready to jump on the defense after this one.
Well, it's bar cocktail yet again here, and as we know from the previous defensive round, TSM's strategy here is what upheld them against XSET's onslaught. We'll see if that is also what's going to get them to the 4-2 scoreline that they so desperately want currently, but a long road ahead of us in round 6 to figure out that one. It's still looking like extremely similar setup overall as to what they ran previously, so I'm assuming that that is what we're going to get. XSET, inside of that previous round, they were still able to deal some damage to TSM, but it just was not nearly enough. We saw a desperate plant attempt from Jarvis at the last second. That was thwarted from Achieve down low, XSET not having a care in the world when it came to who was occupying pillars.
So TSM going to look to try and maintain for one additional engagement on this half. Obviously, it's been a bumpy ride for them, going neck and neck with XSET up until that most recent round, and let's be real, still very likely that we could end up in that same position if XSET picks up another winner for themselves here. But that's all up to them. TSM as well here. They've tripped up in the early round multiple times, so you can bet that they're going to be a little bit cautious about their positioning, as well as any type of aggressive plays they may be trying to make here, as they've been outwitted by XSET in that department more than once inside of this matchup. XSET, of course, on that mark, are going to be very careful, as I mentioned multiple times in the previous rounds, with the opening few seconds, spending a lot of it putting 2 to 3 players on drones, figuring out what that initial setup looks like before they even start to take a step into the building or the window. And there we go, there's the results of that.
The old AC angle is going to take down Geometrics. Always a beautiful one to try and take up if you're worried about somebody down white hallway or simply playing the white stairs in general. It'll bag Filthy a kill. It'll take down Geo, but quite a bit of damage to go along with it. Bolo now taking some fire, but he's going to have the laser gate here and prepared, and they've set this up beautifully. They've actually ended up putting in a soft wall here so that the mirror could end up abusing those angles, but when they blow it, still a laser gate for them to burn through. They'll do that and start hucking stun grenades and everything else at the window. Still have to worry about 2 angles here as, oh, Bolo plays it masterfully. He knows Thomas is going to step in front of the other person's angle, so he takes that prime time to put a bullet right in between his eyes. And this is exactly why Bolo is one of the most deadly players in all of North America. Waited for his moment and struck inside of that window.
Still going to see a slight advantage held by XSET, though, despite that trade finally working its way into the round from Bolo. Once again, TSM has been beaten down to a 3v5, now turned to a 3v4 scenario here. Razor looking for another entry to keep things going strong for XSET inside of this round here, although things have certainly taken a step back with regard to the amount of aggression they're bringing to the table. That's going to be a nice find, though, as they're able to get an angle onto the mirror window that Chala was using. No longer does he have a safe angle to peek from. They're going to have to be more cautious about how he plays around that wall throughout the rest of this round. You can say the same for the other 2 people that are still left in this engagement, too, but look at Bolo. The perfect amount of aggression moves in, gives himself away here, which could be problematic, but the good news is the other 3 players are very far detached from this current position on XSET. You've got a couple on Rappel. One was still on the roof that just dropped down into hatch. That's Razor finally making his entrance, but the other 2 still very far away, meaning that Bolo's going to be able to maintain the cigar position without much of an issue. In fact, he really could completely stop this entire play.
My gosh.
Filthy doesn't even think he's going to be there. It's a quad now from Bolo as he takes out Razor too. Last player trying to make a push in, but it's not going to work. Achieve shuts it down. The ace is denied, unfortunately, but TSM's still going to winner to set themselves up 4-2 at halftime.
4-2 at halftime for TSM, and just no drones apparently for XSET inside of Christmas, which is very strange. They have control of that for most of the time, although obviously Bolo is overwatching it, but at least to be able to put drones in there where you would know if somebody rotated out of Pixel and started, I don't know, trying to kill your team inside of Cigar. That might be something that you'd want to know, and unluckily for XSET, no drone in there, even though they still had some drones inside of their pockets, so don't necessarily know what was going on with that, but Bolo also could have picked up the drone on the entry to Christmas anyways. Either way, though, TSM get away with yet another man-down situation up against XSET and end up winning this half 4-2. We're going to switch sides now as XSET hopefully have a better defensive half as opposed to their offense. Just remember, this is the favored side when it comes to Kafe, so we could be prime time for an OT if XSET have something in the cards.
It'll be the first time today we end up in OT. Quite a few close matchups as all the teams inside of the NAL are giving it their all at the end of the season to try and get enough points to qualify for the major. Coming up in Mexico City in just a couple weeks' time here now. The window is closing for our teams in North America to keep themselves in what I believe has to be the top 4 in order to qualify through to that. So these last few matches, everybody is going to want to make as much of an impact as possible, even for the teams that are in safe harbor, already contained to that top 4. Still a chance they could lose those positions if enough losses are sustained that they're overtaken by teams in the 5th or less positions. So TSM still wanting to secure things here versus XSET today. XSET, though, on their first defense is going to be over on that 2nd floor position, so we'll see how the site works out for them. Here comes TSM for their initial attack, and as usual with most teams here, it's looking like they're going to start things from the roof, so expect that slow lead up just like we were having from XSET.
You got to come right through the top of the building, my friend. Not the most applicable situation to just try and clear that mid-floor and leave XSET to do whatever they want to on that top area. We do see that take every once in a while when it comes to this bomb site, but it's mostly the offense gathering control of Christmas, holding down things on that Christmas hatch and making it to where the defense can't possibly try and mess around with Train. You'll have to worry about Train mining in Christmas in that situation, but more than likely not going to be the case for TSM, but obviously that's up to them. We'll see what they want to do, as we're really used to full clears happening on this site. Clear all the way over to Cocktail and then try and get a plant right inside of the hell door, right inside of Reading. So we'll see what they want to do. As of right now, they're starting to get a read on this top floor. Bolo going to take up the heaven window as the rest of TSM starts to push in from the west side. They're dropping right in top of red right now and looking to take out a lot of this forward utility and creators.
Well, Crater's now dead. Bolo off to a good start here for TSM. Razor's still trying to swing rather aggressively, but he's about to lose some of his support. No, this is not a very kind angle either. Just gives away his foot if he peeks too far. Drone's going to give him away, although he's able to deal with that. Here's the problem, though. No mirror to play off of here, and he's also exposed. So this is just a shot in the dark every time he swings. Nades are going to start coming his way, too, so he's got to be careful not to get pushed too far to the right, as that would open him up to the window repel angle.
Man.
But no, it's the wrong window is the one that shoots him out. He was worried about the one on the defender's side. Balcony, he should have been worried about the cocktail one, as that's the one that ends up taking him out of the match. TSM up 5v3, but less than a minute now to get downstairs and onto the site. And they have not made any progress towards that yet, so there is still hope here for XSET.
I am so happy that Jarvis did not hop out that window. 3 smokes inside of his pockets, now 2, and a Bolo waiting with open arms for him to try and take that leap of faith, but it's not going to happen, luckily enough. XSET still sit at 3 men to 5 up against TSM, starting to deal some damage to Geo now as well. It's 30 seconds remaining as all of XSET are prepared, granted illfully, to try and defend it inside of these last 30. The plant starting to go down for Geo, an air jab to take down 1. Shala looking for 2, but Bolo mustered the second instead. Now it's all up to Jarvis, but TSM win it in a flawless round where they take top floor control, dedicate all of their utility properly, including the air jabs, and make it almost impossible for XSET to try and battle against them. TSM with a beautiful offense.
XSET, regardless, though, still tried to throw some of that aggression from their 3 remaining players. They assumed that there was going to be far too much pressure if they allowed the 5v3 to come to its natural conclusion on the site. So they try to re-aggress, at least with their last player up through the white stairs. There just does not pan out the way they would have liked. TSM far too prepared for that type of aggressive eventuality, so they close out the first round on the attack, maintain the lead, and in fact grow it ever more to a 5-2 advantage. Now as we'll move on to Bar and Cocktail, the opportunities for XSET are starting to dwindle, and they really need to focus up here as the end of the match is coming very, very soon, if not, as TSM continues to take more and more control. Mira's going to come back into the fold. We knew that was probably going to be an eventuality, considering the issues on the usual angle with that inside of the last round, but we'll see once again how things change up for XSET as they'll be bringing it back into the fold for this second round, hopefully improving the view a little bit there as we continue to work into it.
Yes, indeed, my friend. But you know what else you can work on, John? Getting some R6 credits to buy these new esports skins. You can support all of our teams directly inside of our esports store, actively on the client. Just go log into some Rainbow Six, go to the store, go look at all of these beautiful skins that all of these orgs have made for you to purchase and support them live in-game with their skin and charm. Just go check it out. Make sure you guys especially check out TSM's today as they're currently playing in this game.
Absolutely the case. Got a nice new Mozzie skin. Their Zofia skin's also pretty cool, too. I'm not sure if you can still buy that, but if you can.
Don't bait, because it is beautiful, and a lot of people will probably be sad that they can't get it. But luckily enough, the Commando skin in and of itself for Mozzie is probably one of the coolest esports skins that we have had, because it has legit 3D engraving on it. I'm going to say it every single time we talk about this skin, because it's one of the coolest ones that we have inside of the game. So make sure you guys go and check it out. Could be pretty interesting to have on your account and just show off your, your flares for TSM. But speaking of TSM, they're out and onto the field. We're about 45 seconds into round 8. As they begin breaking up this area. Bolo on a pretty cheeky angle here for Garage, or that bottom white stairs run out that we're all so used to seeing on the south side of the building, but isn't going to have to worry too much longer, as it doesn't seem like any XSET members really want to try and have a go.
Drone's just trying to sneak those into position there for TSM. That will get caught as we see it get shot out in its final moments, but that's not going to stop TSM, unfortunately losing quite a few of their drones here. It seems like the overall count is still healthy for them, though, as they've got 7 available on the field. So those 2 we've seen shot out were 2 out of 3 total that they've lost so far inside of this round. Some entries finally going to be made here for TSM. It is in the usual spots you would expect, with that top red control going their way. They're going to burn out the Gemini real quick to deal with the Surya Gate, blocking access to Cigar. As we switch the POV over to Thomas, he seems to have found something to work off of here. And oh, nice impact coming out here from Thomas. Saves his own angle real quickly as he just pops off the impact to deal with the X-Kairos sitting on the other side, so his angle will remain safe. That doesn't mean they don't have another X-Kairos to throw at it at some point. Still 2 available, and you can see those on the window now. Thomas trying to pop that, but it seems like it was dealt with in some other way, so no harm, no foul for him, I suppose. Not exactly sure how those got shot out, but someone managed to take it down. Oh, okay, it looks like they exploded. I just saw them disappear or something, so a little weird on my end. But either way, TSM priming up the angle, dealing with the situation for Thomas there, now taking him out too.
Wow.
Gio's going to be able to knock him out. Finally a kill for TSM, but let's see the follow-up now because they wasted a lot of time accomplishing that, and now they need to make this execute happen with only 38 seconds left.
Oh, well, it's looking like it just might be enough here, John. They're starting to clear things out. Merc excelling forward, holding things down on the crosshair for Freezer. Razor, though, with a forward position, he might be able to stop this, but he isn't paying attention. He doesn't swing the angle either. Razor, oh no, he gets taken down by Merc. He doesn't know what's happening inside of sight, and what is happening is all of his friends are dead. Every single one of them gone. TSM obliterate XSET in such low time it'll make your head spin.
So TSM continue to impress with these incredibly low-timed executes. They do it most prominently there on that round. Remember, they did pretty much the same thing on the previous round. Ended up winning it because XSET took the advantage, or XSET took an advantage or an advantageous step to try and rotate up the stairs in a 3v5 scenario and get aggressive against TSM. So obviously, just considering those numbers, they were able to win that one. But still, that was another situation where they were going to have to barrel into the same type of execute had XSET not made that play. It's impressive stuff for TSM. XSET are a little dumbfounded here about how exactly these rounds continue to unfold into the favor of TSM, so they're going to take a very much needed time out to try and figure this out. Unfortunately, they'll only have one potential missed opportunity to do so, as TSM are now on map and match point.
You know, honestly, it feels like just some minor things here for XSET, at least in my personal opinion. Up against TSM right now, it really feels like a utility difference as opposed to what we would already expect, which is, you know, especially Bolo doing a lot of things that we're used to him doing. Gio having an amazing day right now as well. But for XSET, it seems like they're hindering themselves inside of the utility department, especially inside of these last two rounds for their defenses. There was no mute being ran, and we're seeing TSM simply waltz on through walls. I mean, they're trying to defend mirror windows right now with the impacts from Maestro that aren't working out. There's no mute jammer there to try and hold that up. Yeah, they have a laser gate to the side that's, you know, able to assist with a grenade flying through it, but it didn't seem like they had an ADS there or around that area either. I could be wrong about that, but I would really like to see the mute come out there to try and uphold those walls a little while longer, especially with the bans that we have inside of this map. To not be running mute is almost criminal.
Well, let us see now how exactly the next potential final rounds will unfold here. TSM putting themselves onto good footing, but good will it truly be, as XSET still have made some great strides inside of this matchup, particularly more so on the attack, I will say, with the way that they've been managing that, especially inside of the early round. Unfortunately, have yet to see that come out here for the defensive side, even though they may be containing TSM in the early round and minimizing their own losses. These last two rounds have shown us that despite that fact, TSM will be able to execute regardless of the amount of time left due to the great communication and intel gathering that's going on for the inner workings on this attack. So let's see if they can do it once again, possibly even quicker this time, or if XSET are up to the challenge of stopping this. A little run out that probably got detected there from creators, but nothing really that TSM are going to have to worry about here. It looks like he hops right back in, didn't throw any utility down, so nothing really changed in that scenario.
I was really worried that you know, the XSET roster just went full tilt, and we're going to see nitro cells being chucked at spawns or something like that.
There?
You know,
might honestly just like misclicked or mishit the space bar there or something. So.
You're just trying to, you know, strike fear into the likes of your opponent. You know, get TSM to think about what's happening on that basement floor. You guys are going to have to worry about the bakery hop out this entire game because I jumped out in the first 15 seconds.
We all know everyone's scared of all caps red text in the middle of your screen. That's for sure. That's the scariest thing in this game to me.
That's what was happening this weekend. If you remember, all the alibis being chucked on roofs and everything else during our little charity tournament. But we're not going to see any of that, luckily enough, today. As usually that's quite annoying for the offense, and they'll try and figure out a way to solve that. As well, just simply put stuff on your screen in the entire time. But as we're getting more of a picture of what's happening inside of this round, it's going to be a hold on the mid level here for XSET. But they have to deal with a Jackal right now. That being Merc is going to get tagged up here. No real damage returned, all except onto Razor, but this is coming through quickly. Thomas has already made the move to Dining, so luckily enough, he's more than likely safe here, but he needs to drop soon because Bolo is right around the corner. He's going to know that Dining has actually ended up moving, so TSM already in control of this mid-level as we hit the halfway point.
Halfway point once again reached, but for those of you who remember previous rounds in this matchup so far, you'll remember that That's not really indicative of much, considering that a lot of
Oh, well,
rounds
that
have
is.
gone to the halfway point without much transpiring. Finally, though, something's going to happen. It's a big boom on the second floor. Bye-bye to Bolo in the process. He's going to be the unfortunate victim walking over that nitro cell, which had been pre-placed about 30 to 40 seconds prior to its explosion. Now puts XSET in the advantageous position. Time to see, though, if they can continue to maintain it. TSM has had free reign, save for the nitro cells, of course, over the third and second floor, so they have had all the time in the world to set up top-down angles for themselves. How much has it given them for their execute? That is what we've yet to see, and that is what is going to come to fruition in the final 40 seconds here now as TSM is getting prepared to make the jump.
Oh, Filthy starting to take some damage inside of Bunker, but he'll hold on to his life for a little while longer, even though Lead continues to pepper the area. Razor still alive as well from the previous damage that he had taken, so this is looking to be the round where TSM struggle. But is Chala aware of Razor in such a cheeky spot? It doesn't seem like they are. He'll take down one, and he's prepared for Chala to try and peer over and into white, but yet another remove for XSET, but they're still in the lead. It's all up to Chala as he'll try to take down the smoke, but the M590 too clean as he tries to back off the angle. He'll be successful, and it'll be Creators instead to surge forward into Freezer and remove Chala from play. TSM lose their very first offensive round.
Chala usually our clutch player for TSM, but in that situation, you can see XSET did not want to give him an individual 1v1. They drain out his ammo count, throw him onto the secondary, and it's only when they hear those pistol shots that there's finally some confidence for the defense, and they start swinging him to take him down there. Either way, beautifully managed by XSET yet again. They're getting that initial pick and then playing out the rest of the time just in their default hold there. Had the countered horizontal angles to stop the drop play from being successful, just because of the fact that we can have immediate flanks for those, and that on top of the anchors doing their job quite well. We could see, for instance, their Razor having to dodge the shots from above and successfully maintain himself alive in that situation so that he would be a massive obstacle against the drop play. That combined with the flanks allowed for a very easy shutdown in XSET's favor for a third round to go up on the board, and for TSM a little bit more nervous about closing down this match. Nowhere near the point where they're shaking in their boots, though. They still have 3 more chances to end this before we go to OT.
Yeah, XSET there was some huge frags on TSM's execution that really helped them instead of that round, but they have to do it all over again here, my friend. We're going to Reading and Dining or Fireplace Hall, whatever you would prefer it to be, but they're still going to have to hold this top floor, as obviously it is quite important to the overall play of this site. So let's see what XSET wants to do with this top floor. Well, first things first, I want to make sure no one can possibly get down into train, at least through that hatch. So they're going to take control of that, end up reinforcing it overall, and start dedicating utility here as well. We're going to have some laser gates up top with some ADSs, a bulletproof for White Hallway, and an ADS near Stacks, as well as Cocktail. So this is looking quite similar to what we would expect for a top floor area. You need to really worry about what's happening in Long Bar and that long White Hallway, as those are 2 of the usual high traffic areas for the offense to try and work through.
We've already got Bolo on the outside balcony right now, getting ready to play around with the rappels when the time is appropriate for it. The rest of TSM, it's a hard focus on the red drop to get that initial third floor control and start flushing out the extended Cocktail hold. And there's a lot of holding going on here in Cocktail. Razor's got himself Soraya gates. He's got himself 2 ADSs. There's probably more support inside of freezer or bathroom area too, as we have a second player from XSET still up here maintaining presence. So a lot for TSM to deal with. Once again, we talked about how they were masters of the lowest time to execute. This is once again going to be testing that prowess from them once more.
Indeed. Minute off the board now for TSM, as it's quite slow moving as of right now, but we are in the beginnings of a Rainbow Six Siege round, so I don't expect things to get high-flying just yet. Still have to worry about mute jammers and everything else in between, including laser gates, and that's why Yana's along for the ride, as opposed or besides the info that she's usually able to procure. A nice counter here for XSET. They know Bolo's been playing that window, so they send a nitro cell out of the laundry hatch on a perfect angle, end up taking him off of that balcony. So now TSM only with the west push going on. They don't have the counter angle here any longer, but they will have a frag of their own as Thomas will go down to achieved.
Razor with another peek in. Unfortunately, it's going to go by the way of TSM. We will see
Wow.
Craters get another Nitro Cell kill, but that's the only way players from TSM have died so far this round is due to Nitro Cells. And you look at that utility for XSET, bad news. They're all out of it, so no more of that to try and stop the push from TSM. It's on Achieved, Merc, and Geo at the same time to make this play happen with the remaining 50 seconds. There's still a floor transition that needs to happen, and this angle specifically has a hard watch on it. Nade to the inside is not going to do any serious damage to either Creators or Filthy. In fact, no damage done to either one of them whatsoever. Achieved, still making sure, though, that they continue to open up every top-down angle possible so that they explore every eventuality before making the commitment. Here we go, though. First planet tip coming in. Oh, Merc with the timing here. Looks off his opponent just at the wrong moment, but thankfully is going to get the yellow pings to correct that very quickly, and Achieve will shut down the final kill. That'll be the end of it, ladies and gentlemen. TSM take control of the matchup and get 3 points on the NAL standings.
A beautiful game there for TSM, and Geometrics is back, folks. TSM look to be at full force after these last 2 weeks not really going their way, so excited for their future. But for XSET, it seems like they still got a little bit of stuff to worry about. Not too big of a deal today for them. Obviously, a very big game coming up against TSM, but we expected them to still be working on a handful of things. The good news is that it seems like their openings to these rounds are very, very good. They're starting to get some opening picks and really starting to take it to teams in, those low times, just not really able to do it to TSM today.
Definitely agree with that sentiment with regards to how we see their performance bring the early round play into some bit of success for the folks over on XSET. But yeah, agree entirely when we talk about the mid to late round, those transitions from their extended roam game back to the site, or just how they handle low time situations in general. Definitely a little bit more work to be done on them, but it's a massive improvement from what we had been seeing in the past from this team, and that's a great sign to see, especially against TSM, right, who was absolutely dominating this league earlier in the season. They had 2 7-0s in a row at one point earlier in the stage.
Yeah, TSM has been absolutely dominant. I definitely think that they've been the team to beat throughout the stage, especially early on where we still didn't know really what was going on with SSG and Mirage and OXG. And we have a lot fuller story overall for a lot of these squads. And I think we can definitely say this. TSM is still one of the top teams inside of North America, Geo making it even more so, I would say, with that playmaking ability that we saw today. But XSET still have a couple of things, still a couple kinks in the hose to try and figure out and get undone, but they're well on their way, and I think this roster still has some light left in them.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for myself and Stokes here for this matchup. We're going to take a short break, and then when we come back, we got Veli and the rest of the desk to break things down and, of course, get us ready for our final game of the day.
What does it take to call next? Follow us for a deep dive into the Rainbow Six community, breaking down barriers, taking you behind the scenes, and showing what it means to level up.
Heavens to Betsy.
It's one of you.
A what?
A werewolf.
Oh my God, that was absolutely horrible sound they made.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the NAL, and I'm gonna be completely honest. I was rooting for XSET I'm gonna be real. I rooted for them a lot this game. They showed some promise, but unfortunately, they went against one of the Titans in an A and TSM. It was just another day in the office, and fellas, Jesse and Jacob, seeing Gio back on TSM, I don't know about you guys, but it felt so good to see him in action again.
Yeah, it kind of felt like TSM really hasn't skipped a beat, and that's made even more evident by the way that Bolo was playing in this game. Homie was lights out. We'll probably talk about him more a little bit later. TSM, a couple of flawless rounds, a couple of very well executed attacks. The times where XSET won definitely looked like they're fixing some mistakes, but unfortunately for them, TSM is just too much of a juggernaut to defeat today.
Yeah, I mean, it was looking good actually for XSET the first couple of rounds. Not only did they win rounds 2 and 4, but also even those first couple of rounds 1, I think they were in a really good position to convert it into a round win. A couple of key mistakes though did cost them in TSM. They'll capitalize off those every single time.
Yes.
Latter half of the game as well was definitely TSM's domain here on Kafe.
All right, thanks for breaking that down with me right now, fellas, but we actually have an interview. I tried to get Gio on the mic. He didn't want to do it, so we got the other hard breach for TSM, now the coach. Pojo, man, put him on the screen. How you doing, man?
I'm good. How are you, Valley?
I'm doing all right. I thought you were posing for a second, making that face. So I have some honest questions for you. You were able to fill in Gio's spot, and that was when he was out of the country. Playing with the team and getting experience battling it out in the front lines with them, did that elevate your knowledge of how the team worked and help you out when it came back to coaching this roster back on the NAL?
I think I always kind of knew how everybody played together, so I've always kind of been knowledgeable about that. But I'd say it definitely helped, like you said, just knowing how everybody plays and knowing how Gio's role fits into everything, and knowing kind of what he needs to deal with. I think it helps quite a bit.
Sorry about that. I thought you were done talking. Now there's a lot of talk about the differences of you and Gio on the roster. What are some takeaways in your eyes about the different aspects that you brought when you were on the team, and how Gio comes in and he just fits right in the mode and he continuously wins with TSM? Ultimately what I'm asking, what is the biggest difference between both of you playing in that role, and how does that help TSM as a whole?
I think Gio does everything that I do, just a bit better, in every single way. If anything, maybe my communication's usually pretty good. That's kind of where I fill in from the non-gunning perspective, but I think Gio's been doing a really good job of getting better at that over the past year and a half. So I'd say he's definitely on par with me in that, and then he just shoots everybody as well way better than I do. So I'm just an old man.
Pojo, don't downplay yourself. You know we love you when you're in the lobby, okay? Now, I usually don't ask this, but seeing a team like XSET, they're on a 2-game winning streak and they look better. What is your opinion on this team and how much they've progressed so far this stage? Because, I mean, we have incredible stories from top to bottom, but for XSET's instance is pretty different because they didn't have too much success in the past. Have you noticed anything special or different about them in this series?
I think they've gotten exponentially better since Jarvis started playing, and I think just having a positive person as opposed to a negative person on the roster that can elevate your players as opposed to bring them down can make all the difference in the world. And I think we've seen that in the past 2 matches that they've played, and even in our match, I think they did a lot better than they would have before. I think that just makes all the difference. It's not between somebody bringing up the team and somebody bringing down the team, regardless of the stats.
Yeah, definitely. And the last question, Pojo. By the way, thank you for doing this with me, man. I miss you. The last 2 games for TSM that you guys did lose. Thank you. Were there any glaring issues that you guys are trying to work on, or was it just a bad day for you guys?
I think against the Mirage game, I think we just didn't play too well, and I think Mirage played really well that day. They did a really good job kind of shutting us down, and our communication wasn't as good. And against SSG, Hot and Cold's just nasty. He's the best player on their team by far, exponentially better than everybody else. And he carried them through that, and they did a really good job at prior. What's the word I'm looking for? Abusing Hot and Cold to carry them through that game. He did really well, and they did a good job using him.
Yeah. Well, Pojo, thanks a lot, man. Do you want to say anything to the fans before we go back to the desk?
Thanks for supporting us. We have some rough games sometimes, but I think we always put on a show regardless. So thanks for watching, guys, and watch the next match. Should be a good one.
I hope to come back to the team house one day and give you a big fat hug, man. You take it easy and you have a good night, all right?
Hey, thanks. You too.
All right. This is Pojo, man, everybody. By the way, here goes the stats. 3-7 loss, but you know what, Jacob? We have to say it. It's easy to point out all of the mishaps on XSET. It's easy to point out why they're losing and whatnot, but the one thing that we have to do is we have to give them their credit. They went against TSM. They had a decent game. The wins that they had looked really good as well. This team, I'm actually excited for their future.
I am as well. I think the big thing for XSET is they're getting a lot of those opening frags, which Jesse will love to harp on to no end. But the difficulty is that when they have that man advantage, it's something that they simply aren't converting into more sustainable rounds, especially like the longer that they go on. And I do think that sometimes they fall a little bit short to the sixth man that is the clock when they're on the attack, because defending teams are just capable of running out the time on XSET if their clears aren't as effective. TSM like to play a style where they give up, or they don't give up rooms. They kind of hold on to it with like a white knuckle death grip and don't let go. And I kind of feel like XSET doesn't really know how to work around that. But Jarvis is adding a lot of additional structure to this team that wasn't there before. So genuinely, even though they only got 3 rounds, hats off to XSET. They still look better even in defeat.
I have to say it, man. Bringing Jarvis in the mix, XSET are actually playing as a team, and they look incredible when things go right. But Jesse,
Yeah.
Taking a look at TSM right now, achieved on top,
Sure.
11-3, and I'm gonna have to ask. I mean, what are your thoughts on Bolo's performance, most of all, behind Achieved as well? Because these are two players that you love talking about.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Achieved had a fantastic game, but I just want to bring up Bolo's spot. And I don't know if this is being collectively referred to as Bolo's spot yet, but I think it should be, because on Kafe, the top floor bathroom, he's ridiculous in this area. And you could tell, XSET were aware, Bolo in this bathroom is incredibly hard to deal with. We're just going to ignore him. And they tried that twice, attacking onto the top floor. You know, the first time, it didn't work so well. They didn't waste 2 minutes utility on him, but they still couldn't clear out most of the cameras and such in sight. They got shut down when they were running into the bomb site. The second time, they again ignored him, and Bolo kind of clued in, like, all right, they're really not going to fight me. So he just pushes out of that bathroom, goes all the way through piano, and makes that play happen. I don't know if I've seen Bolo lose in that spot in a long time, Belly, and it's actually ridiculous how one player can own one spot of a map, just completely dominate anytime he's playing around that top floor bathroom. And TSM realized that, you know, they give him all the utility in the world: mirror windows, mute jammers, Surya gates, castle barricades, whatever he needs. He's there, he gets all the support, and I love seeing a player really thrive in one particular environment like Bolo does.
You're right. Now, fellas, we actually have a community poll, and this is a good one. And Jacob, I want you to come up on top of this one first. Gio hasn't played a game this stage, but Filthy has finally started heating up. Which player will put on the show today? It's going to be, you know, Latin Heat. It's going to be Big Poppy Gio, or Filthy, who's definitely been doing better so far this stage.
So you know how often chat asks whether Gio is back or where's Gio? Like, it's just been filled with that over the past couple of weeks. He's finally back today, and you think he lost a Twitter poll, Veli? Get out of my face. There's no way he lost.
All right. Jesse, this Filthy. All right, let's be honest. In a popularity contest, does Filthy stand a chance with Gio? I love
Listen,
Filthy.
Belly, maybe if Filthy put down his air jabs once in a while, we'd vote for him in the polls, but he's not doing that. Gio's getting the flanks down, and I think he's winning these Twitter polls too, to be honest.
Well, Gio definitely dominated this poll, 89%. It was a blowout.
Yeah.
And hey, it is what it is. Gio's a fantastic player, and he definitely deserves it. Filthy's working his way up, though, so, you know, hopefully we'll see more of him in the polls. But coming up next, we actually have our last game of the day. It's going to be Beast Coast versus Dark Zero. I can't wait for it, but we're going to see that on the other side of this break, so stay tight. Don't go anywhere anytime